Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Steve Cavendish. He's the editor of the new Nashville Banner. It's not a newspaper anymore. It's come back as an online news service. Steve, this service, you're going to have this membership-based services. Are you unique in Nashville? Anybody else doing your particular model at this point?
I mean, there are some others that are free. I mean, Axios is free if you sign up and give them your email. The Tennessee Lookout is free. There are lots of different ways that people are experimenting with how to kind of do membership versus revenue, and kind of like how they're going to make it all work. I think you're going to see a lot of experimentation here over the next 10, 15 years. How
will you be different at the Banner, and how will you be better than those others? Because everybody else is just where can I go to find out what the heck's going on?
Well, I think part of it is that we're going to launch with scale. We're going to launch with a newsroom of 10 people. And the other outlets that have popped up in town, there's some people doing really good work. I mean, I can't say enough good things about, Axios broke a thing about the Titans Stadium yesterday. The Tennessee Lookout does some decent work. Main Street Nashville has added a reporter or two. But when we're talking about what we've lost in terms of local news, you have to, we have Demetria Kaladimos, who's my partner, and I came into this thinking, what can we do to start really replacing lost resources? And the thing that becomes evident when you start looking at the local news landscape all over the country is, how are people doing it that are successful and growing? And the only way to do that is to launch with scale, is to launch with enough people that you're vital on a daily basis, and that you're going to attract more and more membership.
So you are updating your site every day, every hour, or are you basically? I thought I originally heard you were only going to do it like a couple times a week.
So we're in kind of a soft launch period right now. So Dimitri and I have started producing stories. We're going to produce one every 2 weeks just to the Banner's email list, and then we've been building partners to also publish that content. So for instance, I did a piece on the judicial races this week, and it is the cover story of the Nashville Scene as well. So we have a print partner for that, trying to get kind of as broad of an audience as possible for right now.
So you're not so competitive, you won't work with other people that are in the market. Is that how
No, we'll work. What Demetria says, and I think it's right, is we'll compete with everybody, but we'll collaborate with anyone.
I read that you were quoted as saying that Nashville's experienced a decline in public service journalism. What is public service journalism, and can you give some examples of what that decline is?
Sure. So a good example of that is the piece that I wrote this week on the judicial races. And one of the real problems that we have is people are going to go to the polls and elect General Sessions, Circuit, Chancery,
just about every judgeship in the courthouse.
Exactly. The problem is that nobody has any frame of reference for those candidates as they're voting on them, and the biggest reason why is the loss of courts coverage over the last 20 years. We don't have dedicated reporters covering the courts, and so we don't know. We can't evaluate a judge's performance. We can't evaluate the other candidates' performance here until right now. Early voting started this week, and a lot of people just don't know who's the best candidate to vote for. It becomes a popularity contest. It becomes kind of a ask your favorite lawyer what they know, what courts have you been in, you're depending on someone else's judgment rather than your own, and that is fundamentally because of a lack of information.
With the demise of the Banner over 20 years ago, the Tennessean became even more the paper of record in this community. But the paper recently ended its Saturday print edition. Its story deadlines are such now that if it happens in the middle to late afternoon, it might be 36 to 48 hours or longer before it ever shows up in print. Is print journalism pretty much dead? Are all these daily newspapers going to just go away in terms of print basis?
The sad thing is, it doesn't have to be. Newspapers have made this transition to being digital operations, and certainly that is the future. We're not going to have a print component because the costs for us to start a print operation would be prohibitive. But the problem is they have devalued the newspaper so much along the way in the name of cost cutting that it's a pretty bad product. I mean, if you're a sports fan, it's almost unreadable. If you want timely news in there, they're encouraging you to go online. They are actively devaluing the newspaper every day.
To give another example, in Chattanooga, which is not very far from here, the Times Free Press announced earlier this year that sometime this year, except for Sundays, they will end their daily paper. Do you expect that to happen, and how quickly will that happen here in Nashville?
I mean, that's going to be a corporate decision from Gannett. They killed Saturday. My guess is that over what you've seen in other chains like Advance, for instance. Advance owns a bunch of papers around the country, like the Cleveland Plain Dealer and the Oregonian and the Newark Star Ledger, and some big papers. And they cut frequency. They own, for instance, all the Alabama papers in Birmingham and Mobile and Huntsville. And they cut, I think they're down to 2 or 3 days a week, and then they have a street sales on edition on other days. And what you're teaching people there is that this is not very important. And from a revenue point of view, there's still some really valuable real estate there. It's declining, but they're accelerating it, the death of these papers much faster than they would normally go on their own.
The decline and death of these papers, to some degree, that's an opportunity for you, because people are still going to want to know what's going on. But now, do you have to teach them again that this is important? They need to come look at and become a member at your place?
Well, I don't think we have to tell people that it's important. And people have been telling us for years now that it's important and that they want more, and that has given us this opportunity to relaunch the Banner.
Steve Cavendish is our guest. He's the editor of the new Nashville Banner. It's an online news service that just started. Back to continue our conversation with Steve on the other side of this break.